Hi friends, hello. Welcome to Crack UPSC CSC with India's largest online learning platform, that is Unacademy. This is Kiran Anishetty, faculty for Political Science, Polity, Issues in Governance, Ethics and Public Administration. Friends, today we are going to discuss very important topic, that is analysis of Supreme Court of India, part 2. This topic is important for both prelims as well as mains. This is one of the favorite areas of the examiner. From Unacademy, you will be getting daily live classes, live tests, quizzes, structured courses, unlimited access to videos on UPSC prelims and mains. You can prepare with the top educators such as Mrunal Patel, Roman Saini, etc. You will be getting courses on polity, ethics, issues in governance, current affairs for your prelims as well as mains. You can go for 12 months subscription, that is 44,000. You use my promo code capital KIRAN, you will get 10% discount. But I suggest if you go for 24 months subscription, it will be all the more good. Here also you will get 10% discount if you use my promo code, that is capital KIRAN. Unacademy has recently come up with a piquant subscription pattern, that is iconic subscription. In this, one of the salient features of this subscription is personal mentorship. Aspirants of civil service, they need personal mentorship. You subscribe this particular subscription, you can get my personal mentorship program on political science, public administration, polity, issues in governance, and ethics. For 1 year, it will be 57,600. And if you, after the discount, if you use my promo code, that is capital KIRAN, for 2 years, it will be 89,100. Apart from my personal mentorship and personal feedback, you will be getting live classes, test series, unlimited practice, structured schedule, personal coaching, and daily mains questions and answers. I will be guiding you with regard to writing the mains answers. I will give you mains questions. I will examine your answers and I will give you personal feedback. Friends, in our last session we end with original jurisdiction. In part 2 on the topic Supreme Court, we will start with writ jurisdiction. First of all, what do you mean to say writ? Writ refers to the order of the court to enforce fundamental right. The order of the court to enforce fundamental right. That is writ. Supreme Court has writ jurisdiction under Article 32. If any of the fundamental rights that have been enshrined in Part 3 of the Constitution, the aggrieved individual can approach the Supreme Court. There are various types of writs. When we discuss fundamental rights, in detail we will discuss these writs. But in this session, in a nutshell, we will discuss these writs. What are they? Habeas corpus means to produce the body of. If any individual is detained illegally, either by the government or any private individual or corporation, he should be produced in front of the court. Then mandamus literally means we command. Any public official does not perform his official functions, he will be directed by the court of law to exercise or to perform his official duties. For instance, you went to police station to file a complaint. The station house officer is not ready to accept your complaint. So in such instance, court can issue mandamus. Quo warranto. By what authority? to inquire into the legality of the claim of an individual to a public post, it can be issued by the court. Then certiorari to be certified. Certiorari can be issued by higher court to lower court to squash the order given by the lower court or to transfer the case pending before the lower court to the farmer. Then prohibition. Prohibition literally means to forbid. When the lower court exceeds its jurisdiction, the higher court can issue prohibition. Sorry. Yes, prohibition. Prohibition is issued when the lower court exceeds its jurisdiction. The court has writ jurisdiction under Article 226. But here, paradoxical thing, friends, you remember, very important one. The High Court's writ jurisdiction under Article 226 is wider than that of Supreme Court under Article 30. Why writ jurisdiction of High Court is wider than Supreme Court? It is because Supreme Court can issue writs only to implement or only to enforce fundamental rights. On the other hand, High Court can issue writs to enforce not only the fundamental rights but also any other legal right. Hence, High Court's writ jurisdiction is wider in Article 226 than that of Supreme Court under Article 30. Supreme Court's writ jurisdiction is original but not exclusive. When we discuss original jurisdiction, we discuss that Supreme Court's jurisdiction in that regard is both original as well as exclusive. But here it is original but not exclusive. What do you mean to say original? When person can approach the Supreme Court directly without having approached the lower courts, district court or high court, he can approach the Supreme Court directly. That is called original. Exclusive means only the Supreme Court has that jurisdiction. That is called exclusive jurisdiction. The Supreme Court has exclusive, original but not exclusive jurisdiction in this regard because this jurisdiction is shared by High Court. Then appellate jurisdiction. Appellate jurisdiction means what? As we discussed in our previous class, appellate means highest court of appeal. Beyond Supreme Court, there will not be any other superior court. That is highest appellate authority. That is called appellate jurisdiction. Supreme Court has appellate jurisdiction in constitutional matters under Article 132. Has appellate jurisdiction under Article 132. In civil matters, it has appellate jurisdiction under Article 133. And in criminal matters, it has appellate jurisdiction under Article 134. If the case involves death sentence or rigorous imprisonment more than 7 years, with regard to criminal matters under Article 134, the case automatically lies with the Supreme Court. It doesn't require the certification of High Court. Then appeal by special leave. Appeal by special leave. Article 136. Under Article 136, the Supreme Court has this jurisdiction. Appeal by special leave. If you watch my video on the differences between Supreme Court of India and Supreme Court of USA, one of the differences is that Supreme Court of India has special leave petition jurisdiction, whereas on the other hand, Supreme Court of America doesn't have this particular jurisdiction. the Supreme Court is authorized to grant in its discretion special leave to appeal from any judgment in any matter from any court. First of all, in a nutshell, we will discuss what does special leave petition mean. It means when a case is pending before the lower court, one of the parties of the court can approach the Supreme Court. One of the parties of the case can approach the Supreme Court requesting to grant the special leave. If Supreme Court grants special leave, the case that is pending before the lower court will be transferred to Supreme Court. Even before the lower court delivers judgment on that particular case. That is special leave petition. For instance, Y.S. Vijayamma, the mother of Y.S. Jagan, Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, a few years ago, she filed disproportionate case assets known disproportionate to known source of income. Assets disproportionate to known source of income. That case was filed by Y.S. Vijayamma in erstwhile United Andhra Pradesh High Court. Chandrababu Naidu approached Supreme Court. Then Supreme Court granted special leave. Chandrababu Naidu requested the Supreme Court to grant special leave. Supreme Court granted special leave petition. Hence, the case that was pending before the High Court of United Andhra Pradesh was transferred from the High Court to Supreme Court even before the High Court gave its judgment on that particular case. That is special leave petition. When the case is pending before the lower courts, one of the parties of the case can approach the Supreme Court, can request the Supreme Court. If Supreme Court sanctions special leave, then the case pending before the lower court will be transferred to the Supreme Court even before the lower court delivers the judgment on that particular case. Here, it is not necessarily High Court. The case may be pending before the district court or a tax tribunal or administrative tribunal or military tribunal, in any court with regard to any judgment. It may be with regard to the interim judgment or it may be even with regard to the final judgment. But here, you should remember one point very cautiously, that is, it is discretionary power. Yes, it cannot be demanded as matter of right. Article 32 is matter of right. Here, it is not matter of right. It is purely the discretionary power of the Supreme Court. Only in the discretionary power of the Supreme Court, special leave petition can be granted by the Supreme Court. And one more important aspect of this jurisdiction is it should be used very sparingly. Should be used very sparingly. That means very rarely it should be used. Should not be used regularly on on regular basis. This special leave petition should not be granted. It should be used very sparingly. Then advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court, which has been enshrined in Article 143. The President of India can seek the advice from Supreme Court with regard to any question of law or fact of public importance. Here, we need to remember one very important aspect. When President seeks advice from Supreme Court with regard to any question of law or fact of public importance, it is up to the Supreme Court whether to tender the advice or not. It is in the discretion of Supreme Court to tender the advice or not. But if the president seeks advice of Supreme Court with regard to any dispute arising out of any agreement or covenant that have been made before the commencement of the Constitution, it is compulsion on the part of the Supreme Court to tender the advice to the president. Always you remember. This is very, very important aspect for examination purpose. With regard to the farmer, it is in the discretion of the Supreme Court. With regard to the latter, the Supreme Court has to tender its advice. Then court of record. It is, I'm extremely sorry, it is mistakenly printed Article 124. It is Article 129. Article 129. Here it is Article 129. My assistant who prepares the PPT, he made this, mistake. Please make note of it. It is Article 129. Article 129. Article 129. Court of record. What does it mean? The judgments, orders, and acts of Supreme Court are preserved for perpetual memory so that they can be used as legal precedents or legal references. What does it mean? The judgments, the orders, pronouncements of Supreme Court will be preserved for perpetual memory. That means permanent memory. So that in future, they will be used as legal references or legal precedents. For instance, if the arguments are going on in any case, the advocate in that particular case, he refers particular judgment of Supreme Court. In that particular judgment, Supreme Court ordered that this particular thing, hence the court should take into consideration this. So that is legal precedents or legal references. For instance, if I am fighting in a court with regard to running schools and colleges in Telangana government, I may file PIL in Supreme Court saying that the Supreme Court should direct Telangana government not to close down schools. Already 3,000 schools have been closed in Telangana, and another, I think there are reports that another 12,000 schools are going to be closed. So if I argue in Supreme Court, I may refer that Supreme Court declared that welfareistic nature of the state is one of the basic features of the Constitution. Hence, state cannot deviate from performing one of its main welfareistic function, that is education. Because education and health are twin pillars of the edifice of welfareistic nature of the state. The welfare state depends on these two cornerstones. One is education and the other is. So I am referring that particular Supreme Court judgment where Supreme Court declared that welfareistic nature of the state is one of the basic features of the Constitution, which cannot be changed even by Parliament, amending the Constitution. Even with 100% majority in both the houses of Parliament, Parliament cannot change any feature of the Constitution that has been announced by Supreme Court as basic to the structure of the Constitution. So this is how the judgments, orders given by Supreme Court can be used as legal precedents or legal references. Then contempt of court. Contempt of court is of two types: civil contempt, criminal contempt. Civil contempt involves willful disobedience to the orders, judgments, acts of Supreme Court. And criminal contempt involves three things: lowering the authority of the court, interference with judicial pronouncements, interference with administration of justice. In the jurisdiction of judicial review, concept of judicial review is implicit in Article 13, Article 32, Article 226, and Article 240. First of all, what do you mean to say judicial review? Judicial review means the authority of the judiciary to examine the laws made by the legislature. Authority of the judiciary to examine the laws made by the legislature. And it will examine whether the laws made by the legislature are according to the provisions of the Constitution or not. We adopted this particular concept from US Constitution. Both in US Constitution and in Indian Constitution, the concept of judicial review is implicit. It is not explicit. Implicit. It originated in US in 1803 in a case called Madison versus Marbury. Justice John Marshall says that in Article 6, Provision 2 of US Constitution, the concept of judicial review is implicit. That particular article, that is Article 6, Provision 2 of US Constitution says, this Constitution shall be the fundamental law of the nation. This Constitution shall be fundamental law of the country. In our Constitution, the concept of judicial review is implicit in Article 13, Article 32, Article 226, and Article 245. Concept of judicial review is more implicit in Article 245, as one of the judges of Supreme Court, Justice Deshpande, in Indian Institute of Public Administration, he says that concept of judicial review is more implicit in Article 245. Why? It is because Article 245 says any law made by any legislature should be according to the provisions of the Constitution. Any law made by any legislature should be according to the provisions of the Constitution. Why I say the concept of judicial review is more implicit in Article 245. Article 13, Article 32, they mainly deal with fundamental rights. And according to 42nd Amendment Act, Constitutional Amendment Acts do not fall under the ambit of the definition of law under Article 13. 13 defines what does law mean? No. So, 42nd Amendment Act says Constitutional Amendment Acts do not fall under the ambit of the definition of law under Article 13. Yes. Invariably, they will escape from the purview of judicial review. Will escape. The Constitutional Amendment Acts will escape. That Article 245 says any law made by any legislature be subjected to the provisions of the Constitution. Any law, whether it is ordinary law, tax law, or constitutional amendment law, should be subjected to the provisions of the Constitution. Legislated by any legislature, whether it is legislated by Parliament or state legislature, be subjected to the provisions of the Constitution. Second, very important aspect of judicial review, the judicial review in India functions on the principle of procedure established by law. Hence, the judiciary cannot question the policy implications and suitability of the law. When we discussed, if you watch my video on salient features of Indian Constitution, we discussed concept of judicial review. The concept of judicial review functions either on the principle of due process of law or on the basis of procedure established by law. When judicial review functions on the basis of procedure established by law, the judiciary can check whether the procedure that has been mentioned in the Constitution has been followed by the legislature or not. Whether the procedure that has been mentioned in the Constitution has been followed by the legislature or not. But it cannot question the legislative prudence, legislative wisdom behind the law made by the legislature. That means the judiciary can check only the procedure that has been mentioned in the Constitution is followed by the parliament or state legislature. But whether that particular law is good for the society, whether that particular law good for the nation, whether the law suits the society of the nation, these policy implications cannot be questioned by the judiciary when judicial review functions on the basis of procedure established by law. For instance, when Telangana was bifurcated in 2014 from erstwhile United Andhra Pradesh, the last Chief Minister of erstwhile United Andhra Pradesh, N. Kiran Kumar Reddy, approached the Supreme Court and he challenged the Telangana Bifurcation Act. The Supreme Court checked whether the procedure that ought to be followed for bifurcation of any state that has been enshrined in Article 3 has been followed or not. The Supreme Court checked the procedure that ought to be followed for bifurcation of any state that has been enshrined in Article 3 has been followed by the Parliament or not. That only was checked by Supreme Court. Why Telangana bill was passed in lame duck session, that is the last session of the Parliament, that is before the elections. That too, why you pass the bill in a hasty manner in the second of budget sessions, the flag end of the session, budget session of 2014. What was the emergency? What are the pros and cons of bifurcation of Telangana state from erstwhile United Andhra Pradesh? If Hyderabad is given to Telangana, from which city Andhra and Rayalaseema will be getting revenue? All these questions could not be posed by Supreme Court because our judicial review system functions on the basis of procedure established by law. On the other hand, in US, the judicial review system functions on the basis of due process of law, where the judiciary can question not only the procedure but also the purpose behind the law, suitability of the law. If the Supreme Court of US thinks that a particular law made by US Congress or any state legislature is not suitable to the American society, is not good for the American society, is not in the welfare of the nation, the Supreme Court can quash that legislation made by Congress or state legislature. That's why in US they say Constitution of US is what Supreme Court of US makes out of. Constitution of US is what the Supreme Court of US says. Yes. Whenever judicial review functions on the basis of due process of law, it can check not only the procedure but also the purpose behind the law. It can question the policy implications of the law. It can question the suitability of the law. It can question the legislative wisdom, the legislative prudence behind the law that has been legislated by the legislature. You always keep in your mind. Don't mug up the things. You try to understand the concepts. Don't be like Chatur in Three Idiots picture. UPSC doesn't want Chatus. It wants people who say analyzed, who understood the concepts. So go for concept-based learning. What are the objectives of judicial review? The objectives of judicial review are to uphold supremacy of the Constitution. You remember the word given by Justice John Marshall in Madison versus Marbury in US 1803. Article 6, Provision 2 of US Constitution says this Constitution shall be a fundamental law of the country. What does it mean? The Constitution being fundamental law of the country means the Constitution shall be the highest law of the land. Beyond that constitutional document, no other law is there. Any law made by any legislature should be subjected to the authority of the Constitution. That is supremacy of the Constitution. So there should be some authority to examine whether the law made by the legislature is according to the provisions of the Constitution or not. No. Hence, we need to have judicial review to ensure supremacy of the Constitution. Then, second objective is to maintain federal equilibrium. Second objective is to maintain federal equilibrium. Supreme Court in this regard, it acts like umpire in cricket. So tomorrow in federal system, the center impinges on the powers and functions of the state or vice versa. The Supreme Court can intervene and it resolves the dispute. So that is to maintain federal equilibrium. And third, to protect fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. Once again, I repeat. Don't think that I am repeating again and again. As Upanishad says, in learning, in education, there is no repetition error. Avrutta dosha, it is called in Sanskrit. So, there is no avrutta dosha in education. No repetition error in education. Fundamental rights, once again I repeat, it means when we discussed salient features of Indian Constitution, if you watch my video on salient features of Indian Constitution, we discussed the concept of fundamental rights in detail. Fundamental rights mean the individual will have protection, protection not only from the tyranny of the executive, but also the tyranny of the legislature. Tomorrow, the legislature legislates any draconian law, we will have protection under fundamental rights. For instance, in Bihar legislature, it prohibited consumption and sale of liquor. That is good. But if any member of the family finds with what to be found with a liquor bottle, the entire family members will be arrested. His mother, his sister-in-law, everybody will be arrested by police. If member of panchayat is found with any liquor bottle, all the panchayat members will be arrested. A kind of ridiculous legislation. Against that legislation, people went to Patna High Court. you have fundamental right, you will have protection not only from the tyranny of the executive, but also the tyranny of the legislature. So these are the three main objectives of judicial review. Then miscellaneous powers of Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decides the disputes related to election of the president, vice president. When former president Pranab Mukherjee was elected, there were some disputes. There were some, what you say, legal cases were raised. P.S. Sangma, former Speaker of Lok Sabha, he also contested for the post of president when Pranab Mukherjee contested. He filed a case that was decided by Supreme Court. Hence, any dispute related to the election of the president or vice president. Second, inquiry into allegations against the chairman and members of Union Public Service Commission, State Public Service Commission, Joint Public Service Commission. Here, two important points I want to move. One, the chairman and members of Public Service Commission, they cannot be impeached by the Parliament, even with 100% majority in both the houses of Parliament. In 2013, when UPSC changed its syllabus, a rider was put, whoever wants to take language as optional, he must have done his graduation in linguistics. In this regard, that means if you want to take Hindi literature as optional, you should have done your graduation in Hindi literature. There was hue and cry in Parliament, huge uproar in the Parliament. The situation went to that extent that the chairman and members of UPSC were summoned to Parliament. Parliament has this authority. It can order any individual to attend before the Parliament as witness. And in this context, one of the senior parliamentarians, Sharad Yadav, was saying that the chairman and members of UPSC should be impeached. But he doesn't know, I think he didn't have even an iota of knowledge of the constitution. Chairman and members of UPSC cannot be impeached by Parliament even with 100% majority. They can only be they can only be removed by the president on the advice of the Supreme Court, and the advice of Supreme Court is binding on the advice of Supreme Court is binding on the president. Second point, the chairman and members of State Public Service Commission, though they have been appointed by the governor, but they cannot be removed by the governor. They can only be removed by the president on the advice of Supreme Court, and the advice of Supreme Court is binding on the president. These two things you remember. And chairman and members of Joint Public Service Commission, anyhow, they are appointed by the president and they can be removed by the president on the advice of Supreme Court, which is binding on the president. The Supreme Court has judicial superintendence authority over lower courts. It has judicial superintendence power over lower courts. It can supervise over the functioning of the lower courts such as high courts, district courts, municipal courts, etc. It is the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution. This has been asked once in prelims in recent years. Which authority in India is the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution? The Supreme Court, which is the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution. That means if there is to be any ambiguity or doubt with regard to any provision of the Constitution, that doubt, that ambiguity can be removed only by the Supreme Court, that is the highest authority in this regard. And to transfer, the Supreme Court can transfer the case pending before one high court to another high court. When the case against former Chief Minister of Jayalalitha was pending in Madras High Court with regard to disproportionate assets possessed by Jayalalitha to known her sources of income. Then the Supreme Court transferred the case from Madras High Court to Karnataka High Court because she is very influential. She might use her clout to unduly influence the proceedings of the case. In this context, Supreme Court transferred the case from Madras High Court to Karnataka High Court. These are the powers and functions of Supreme Court. In another session, we will discuss very important and interesting topic from mains point of view, both general studies and general essay, that is judicial activism and judicial overreach. What is judicial activism? What are the instances of judicial activism? What are the factors which led to judicial activism? And what are the differences between judicial activism and judicial overreach? Thank you, friends. Use my promo code, that is capital KIRAL, and get 10% discount. If you want this PPT link, PPTs, you can subscribe to this Telegram link. Next session onwards, I will be giving my phone number. You can contact me if you have any doubts, and I will give you a Telegram address also, so that you can post if you have you can post your doubts. I will clarify them. Thank you. Thanks a lot.